And we are back. This is AR's Tales, aka the ART podcast. I am AR the Bond, and today I am joined by Mary Terry, author of Wattpad, Inkitt, Booknet. She is a romance erotica author, and her latest work is Dreadful Desire. She's going to talk to us a little bit about that, as well as the industry and a whole bunch of other things. Mary, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Now, is it Mary or is it Marie? Mariah?
It's Marie. It's Marie Terry.
Marie Terry.
Yes.
Okay. No, because I've met a couple in my life, and the pronunciation varies in between. It's like Caroline or Caroline, you know, that whole thing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about yourself. Where can people find you? Instagram, for the people listening. If you have any website, if you have a cat that has a blog.
I have Facebook, Insta, and TikTok. On Facebook, it's just Marie space Terry. On Instagram, it's Marie_Terry_1. And on TikTok, it's Marie Terry 6 altogether.
Okay. Now, where do you mostly find yourself on? Is it Wattpad? Is it Inkitt? Are you going to start publishing your own works through a self-publishing mean, get a vanity press?
I am on Wattpad, Inkitt, and Booknet. I would say I'm on them equally. I update with each one at the same time. I'm sorry, what was the other question?
And what is your future plan for publication? Are you going to just continue going with the Wattpad Inkitt route? Are you eventually going to migrate into the self-publishing sphere? Or are you going to try to get an agent? Are you going to do a Curie letter? Are you going to do a vanity press like Lori? What is your
all
idea?
Of that sound like a complete other language to me, because I have no idea about all of that. I would like to have it published. As to how to publish, I have no idea. But I do know that I don't want to do it just yet. I literally just started writing in April of last year. So I feel like my writing skill, yeah, I just started writing a year ago. So I feel like my writing skill isn't as good as it can be, but it is progressing. So I think I'd rather wait a few years before I decide to publish.
Is English your first language?
Yes.
So really, you've been writing all your life, but you've only been doing it in a hobbyist, like a standpoint for a year, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, really, you've been practicing all your life. I mean, every conversation you've had, every little life experience you've went through, I mean, it all ties together.
Every paper I had to write in school, the whole nine, yes.
All ties together. Everything goes together. So what are your trepidations with that publication? Like what is stopping you from going and taking your Wattpad and just putting it on Kindle? It's a simple pop-up.
Honestly,
ebook. They give you your own ISBN or whatever, which is like the little serial code that every book has, and everything. They just do it, nothing, no cost.
I actually want to work on my writing skill. I feel like from the time I started till now, it has progressed and it has gotten a lot better. And I just want to continue working on that, because I feel like I still have a ways to go. And I feel as I continue writing, it will eventually unveil itself and it'll be a lot better.
Well, that's a definite. I don't know if I can be. Reason I ask is I guess I'm in between both of the standpoints, because I have I think like the third guest ever on this podcast with Steve R. Gams said something that really like took me back, and you know, just a background, I myself am not published yet. My book is coming out, but it's not out yet.
Okay.
So technically I'm on the exact same playing field as you are. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If anything, I just spent like maybe 5-10 more minutes on Google terms, but that's it. So what he was saying was that like we always have like this kind of idea of like perfectionism. Like I was like, oh, I have to wait until XYZ until I'm at this thing. But like your voice is your voice. And if you just like let it out in like I guess like layers, then you also let your audience grow with you. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because I remember my standpoint was what you were saying. It was like, oh no, I'd rather, you know, work on it for years and years and years. You know, by the time I'm 40, you know, I'll have like this nice little thing, and then we'll drop it then. But I guess he kind of like showed me the light. but at the same time, it's unreal just by going through my own little editing phases where, you know, I'll edit it in March and then I revisit it in June and I already feel like I can rewrite it just a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. I have made the mistake of going back to chapters 1 through 4 and reading them and like, how did I publish this? And then rewrite it. And then chapters like 5 through 12 are still with how I first started. And then from 13 and on was when things started to get better. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm like, I need to fix this book. And I guess that's why I'm at the point where I'm just like, I think I need to wait. But it does make sense what you said, because it does show, I guess, the growth as you progress.
Yeah, if I can be honest, I mean, so much of that interests me. I mean, like, it is just, not only do I love writing, but like the industry is like really interesting to me too.
Yeah.
Like, I always find it so weird that, all right, for example, J.K. Rowling, she drops Harry Potter, that's her first book. And then she finishes, you know, 7 books later, and then she has Harry Potter. Have you personally, you know, outside of the things related to the Harry Potter franchise, do you know much of her other works?
No.
So how is it? I mean, we're literally just talking how you, without a doubt, get better without time, like over time. But what is it about those type of things where you hit your success immediately and then it somehow tapers off? What happens there?
Exactly. That's interesting.
It's weird, right?
It is. That is weird. It's just like, oh, you were good. Not anymore. That's it.
Yeah, and like, and look, I mean, if I were ever to talk to her, I'm sure she could run literal laps around me as far as literature goes, and like, you know, everything that has to do with this industry. She'll literally just put me over her lap and spank me. Well understood. But I don't know. I guess it's just like an interesting like case study. Like, how, what is that? Like, what are the differences between that? But it's undoubtable in with indie authors. You know, most indie authors that I know, even if they have like a really good book, they're not as successful as the indie author that has like 13, you know, and has like a nice little like following behind them.
True.
Which is why I think that honestly, the Wattpad and the Inkitt and like those type of authors, I mean, what we're talking about, you were talking about revisiting chapters 1 through 4 and it getting better at 13, but your work has 76 chapters.
My work is a bit long.
No, I'm not like, I don't mean to like make fun of it. I'm saying that it's like it's like it's long. It's not a short work by any degree. So there's like that is what people are for right now. Like so there's ebook publishing where there's somebody just buying your book outright from Amazon, and then there's Kindle Unlimited, which is like people buy a monthly subscription and they just get unlimited books. So then the author gets paid per page that is being read, basically. So authors like you, I mean, you couldn't hit more check marks if you wanted to. Romance, erotica, and long format, 76 chapters, you'd be rolling in the dough.
It's not even done yet. It's going to end at 85 chapters, so we still have some ways to go.
I'm pretty sure Kindle even allows for that. I mean, I like, you know, I'm not trying to cheerlead too hard, but like that, there is no higher time for that industry right now than right now. Honestly, okay. I really do believe that. So, like, considering that, what do you think is the future outside of the 10 additional chapters you plan to do for your current work? What do you plan to do after?
All right, so this is a spoiler alert. This is going to be a series. It's called the Desire series, and there will be 4 more books. On top of the 4th book, I will have a 5th book, but it's going to be this first book, but in the male's perspective, because in this book, it's all from the female's perspective.
Okay. Now, this is something I've been thinking about a little bit, like to myself. What about chapter length? How do you treat that? Do you try to make it as homogenous as possible? Meaning, like, if chapter 1 was 7,000 pages, you don't want to go more than, you know, 1,000 plus or over for like the other chapters, or do you just write it by sequence? Like, I want this and this to happen by this chapter, and then we continue on.
Honestly, since this is my first time writing in a professional capacity, I first started and I was like, if I could at least get like 1,200 to 1,500 words, this would be great. But then I started noticing that my work got a lot more detailed. So now my average length of a chapter, I can say, is anywhere between 3,000 to 6,000 words.
Now, did that happen? So if you go back, are your chapters 1 through like 10 on that 15, 2,000 word
Somewhat,
count?
yes.
And then they go up high? Yeah.
Yes. So there was one chapter that I was doing that it ended up, when I was writing it on Word, it was 10,000 words. When I put it onto Wattpad, I was like, I can't do this. So I cut the chapters into 2 and I just did a double update so that they can get the whole chapter that I had in my head.
Oh, that's not bad. Well, yeah, I mean, things like that are just so interesting. Again, just going through through my own stuff, I like one beginning chapters will be anything between like 7 and 10 pages, and then I'm editing one that's like 20 something, like dwarfs the other size of every other chapter. It's almost interesting because when you have to go back on editing, like that's like the one thing that you're almost like scared of. You're like, oh my god, all right, Wednesday, we know what's coming. Jesus Christ. That gargantuan, unbelievable word text. I'm gonna have to go through all of that.
Yes. You know what? I think that's okay. So my writing process is really crazy. I first write everything down just to get it out of my head so that this way I can know what it is I'm going to say. Then I do my rewrite, which is I say it how I want it to come out and how I want to describe things for everyone to understand and for everyone to visualize.
Yeah.
Then I go through it again to do my edits to make sure I did proper punctuation, proper capitalization, things like that. And then to also make sure that my paragraphs are separated so that there's not too much on one page. And then I do one more final edit to make sure that everything is okay and that I didn't miss anything, which I still find things that I miss, which drives me crazy.
Oh my god, I know. Do you use the editor tool on Word?
No, I do it all myself.
I do as well, but you'd be surprised how that's actually pretty decent.
Really?
Yeah, want to know why I know it's decent? Because my editor uses it. And I was like, wait a minute. You're putting that shit through like a software? And she goes like, oh no, yeah, it's actually pretty like up to date now. It's like, then what is the point of an editor? What the hell's going on here?
Okay.
No,
you know
but
what?
the thing is that she's right though. She's right. It's actually pretty decent.
So
you have to watch it though. You can't just let it run through.
Yes.
You have to,
because I noticed like if I say something like I forgot which way it was, but if I say like don't, it'll separate it, say like do not, or it's the other way. If I say do not, it'll say press say don't. Or if I say like, I'm trying to like give a little bit more emphasis to a word, it's like, okay, just say this. I'm just like, no, it sounds so boring that way. So you do have to watch it because I have noticed that it does that.
You know what? I just recently found out what the difference is, the difference of that is. So if you're writing in monologue, like you're thinking, you don't conjugate. So when you're thinking, it's do not, it's cannot. And then when they're talking, it's yeah, I don't, I can't.
Ah, okay. See, I learned something new. Now I'm gonna have to go and fix my whole book.
But even then, that's why this whole process is so weird. It's why I almost I mean, people doing me to make sure they're editing their own shit. I know a lot of people that just like first pass it and then just drop it off on the Kindle. But I really it annoys me when people say that like something is poorly edited, like especially when they like point out punctuation or things like that. It's like my favorite book. I can crack open Frankenstein right now. To our standards, that is every sentence is overrun. Like I'm not lying. There was one time I was reading it, and there's like 8 commas a sentence, 3 semicolons, an M dash. I'm telling you, it was the longest sentence I've ever seen. And we're talking about Frankenstein. We have any doubt that she's a good writer? Like punctuation really is up. Like it's really up in the air. I mean, like I just found out what an M dash really does. And all it really does is it's a replacement for a comma. I mean, if you really don't know, I mean, it's a little extra, but for the rudimentary, just obvious shit, it's a comma. That's all it is. All this extra shit for a comma. And just like, I don't know, the entire process of editing and writing is so crazy, especially that I myself have really only been it for like a year, maybe a year and a half as well. So like I
Okay.
myself, I'm just like learning all the terms and all the different things, and especially that people in this industry are really about those terms and those different things, you know.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
No, I mean like really helpful, but like yeah, punctuation is a weird one, I guess. Just varies so like heavily between person to person.
Yeah, I also, yeah, between person to person and region to region, I think that
Oh my
that's such a
god, yeah.
huge difference too. Like some people like, oh, it's spelled this way. I'm just like, I do American English, I guess you can say, because it's not British English, so like, it's a little different. But I take it in stride. I'm like, okay, thank you. Like I don't offend anyone. I'm just like, okay, thank you. I appreciate the input. Just keep it moving. I know we're all different.
I guess that's like the healthy way of doing it, but it's one of those things that like when anything that I read, I only read for the content. So it's like when you like hear something and a person goes like, "Oh, I want to put that comma there." It's like, well, okay. What about the context though? What about the story and the
Exactly.
and the
Like, are
dialogue?
you really interested in the comma that much? Like, why are you reading the story then?
Exactly. I don't know. It's one of like I don't know. I also do it when like the movies. I'm really bad at telling when a movie is like bad. I mean, there's obvious ones, but for the most part, like I'm just there for the ride. If you know whatever you present to me, I believe. Okay, sure, that's what we're doing. All right, and I
Yeah.
just I just enjoy the movie, and then like,
Oh God, yes. I had someone the other day. What was it? The new King Kong versus Godzilla movie,
okay.
and they were like, "Oh, it's not real." I'm like,
Oh,
"It's
Godzilla, is it real?
not real." I'm like, "It's Godzilla and King Kong." I'm like, "Do you really think that we have these things in the ocean just waiting to help protect us?" And they were talking about how spoiler alert. Is it okay?
No, of course, yeah.
Okay. So
Let me guess. One beats the other.
well, no, it's not that. It was just about an old kaiju and how was it able to take over a machine. And I was
They
like,
put that in the movie.
yes.
Oh
It
my
was a
god.
really old kaiju that they had the skeletal head still, and somehow it was over to take over the human that was trying to drive the kaiju machine, but the kaiju ended up taking over him. Like it was dead. How did it happen? I'm like, they had mentioned something about bone marrow, I think it was, or something like that. I was like, listen, it's a movie. Enjoy it. That's it. Look at the special effects. Look at King Kong and Godzilla fight. Like it's amazing. Just watch it. Just enjoy it. Forget about the comma.
Honestly, though, I mean that could be like a philosophical like thing. Like, forget about the comma. Like, why are you worrying about the little shit? Just like
Yeah,
why?
just enjoy.
Yeah, why are you worrying about a little cloud? Just look at the sun, and like the sky, all nice and everything. I don't
Yes.
know.
Agreed. So agreed.
And I guess to play devil's advocate, like I remember I used to watch movies like that, like thinking like all like high tech and everything, and just like thinking like everything had to be like if you're gonna present something, put an explanation to it. But then
Mm.
I like realized that like people have to make a movie and edit it, right? So imagine you have a movie that's 2 hours and you're like talking about like, all right, should we add this 10-minute sequence where we talk about the science and break into all the explanations, or do we just cut off 15 minutes and let people just get to the what they want quicker? And it's
Yes.
like, yeah, that makes a lot more sense actually when you think about it like that, you know?
Yes, yes, yes. That makes perfect sense.
Especially when that is the genre. I mean, like, are you really going to King Kong? And although that is a hell of a plot point, kaiju, so they like bring in the Pacific Rim thing into the Godzilla.
It's insane. It
Oh,
really
what?
is.
All right, I'll be honest. Those movies don't sell to me normally because like because to me it's no plot. It's just like a monster fight. It's like I can just look up I can just Google the winner. Okay, Godzilla won this time. I bet. But that actually sounds really good. I actually am gonna watch that now. Wow.
Yeah, it was
Do
interesting.
you
I
work
was
for
like,
them?
oh no, I don't.
That's what it is. You came on the podcast to be a
To promote
sponsor
them.
to promote them. I get it. I get it. I don't know how you found
My
this podcast.
my husband is a huge fan and I found you through Lori.
Oh no. No, yeah, it's God. Man, it's so weird. I did not think I'd be talking about Godzilla this quick into the podcast about romance and erotica. That's such a segue.
Like it's two completely different things.
Well, I guess it all came from the whole like forget about the comma thing, right?
Yes, it did.
God, oh my God. But well, I guess that was basically my riff. That was like my rant of like what kind of an and again, if you haven't listened to past things, I love everything about this industry. So like that is the one thing that I find kind of annoying. What is like your version of that? The one thing that you find that it's like, you know what? For everything that I love, all the support, everything that people show me on social media, and everything that I just learned for myself as I grow as an author. What is the one thing that's kind of like, Jesus Christ?
So I think the biggest thing that for me that's like, is the promotion of my book. Like always having to try to create videos and having to, post on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. I see so many people do it so much throughout the day, and they have all these amazing posts and like faded images with like neon signs and all this stuff. And I'm just like, okay, once a day for me, if that. They're so talented and they do so well with it. And I think it's just the promotion part that kind of just, I'm like, okay, like, I really feel like I need one whole day to like make maybe like videos for the whole week so that I don't have to worry about doing it every day, multiple times a day.
Man, I really agree with I really, really feel that. Just, and the thing is, I feel that most people would agree with that because I mean, what we're doing is writing, right? So like I don't think we have like that much of a natural thing to just want to be like promoting and spending all the time on video editing and all the random things and photography and all the things that comes with promotion. I mean, we want to write. That's the end goal, right?
Yes. And then my biggest thing about that is that you go and you post it on TikTok or Instagram or on Facebook. And then one of them is like, oh, your video has been taken, your video is no longer able to be viewed because it violates our guidelines. Or it's partially muted, or you can't be seen in these countries because of new laws. And it's just like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I did this, spent all this time on this, and I violate your guidelines. That happened to me with TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.
Is that because like of an erotica thing? Oh, then again, we're talking about TikTok. I mean, girls like show their,
Thank you. And it was on TikTok, and it was basically a GIF that was only 3 seconds long of a woman in high cut boy shorts. So you saw some of her buttocks, and he was grabbing onto her, and that was it. That's all you saw. But so she was fully covered. You just saw a little bit of cheek,
buttocks,
and him grabbing her. And that, it violates our guidelines. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? I'm like, there are women who wear wet t-shirts and you see everything. But I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's
you look dumbfounded, like what?
No, because like there's so many layers. I mean, like my immediate thought it was like, oh, I mean, I don't post that many videos, but I don't think I've ever hit any guidelines. But then I immediately think of like, oh, erotica, that makes sense. But then I thought I was like, wait a minute, but we're talking about TikTok, and I immediately just thought all the filth I've seen on that fucking thing, and I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. So my immediate mind goes to the conspiracy, and then the reason why is like, maybe it's like due to popularity. Maybe it's because those girls like get like 1 million views and like I don't even know like 30 seconds when they post like their titties, that like TikTok allows it because like, they're making money off of it somehow. Know what I mean?
But then my thing is, in order for me to get there, you got to let me post what I need to post so I can get there, right? I mean, I got to post. I mean, if this is what sells, then I need to post it so that it can get there. So if you block it, I can't get there to that 10 million views where you can make money off me.
No, you're not lying. Damn. Yeah. How do you win, huh?
Exactly. It's like a catch-22. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if I don't do it, then I don't grab anyone's attention. But if I do it, I'm grabbing the wrong attention because they want to block my video.
Man, that is the thing that like is just really interesting right now, especially that I see a lot of people, what they go for is they kind of, you know, most people get it, sex sells. So like I'll see like and it's not just on one side. I'll see like the guys too, like showing like the gym pack. It's like, oh yeah, I just dropped a new book yesterday. You know. Oh, it's 300,000 words. You know what I mean? And then
Yes.
and they have the Starbucks with the, you know, and like the, you know, everything's like thing. It goes both ways, and like, you know, I'm sure we both have seen examples of it, but even then, I don't know. It's just like such an odd thing, because like just like how it goes. All right, so I saw one person, and obviously not gonna like drop any names or anything, but they were like doing a full on thing. Like all that they were promoting were like, if they asked me if they were an author, I wouldn't believe it, because everything that they posted were just like selves to know themselves or their families and XYZ. And then a couple of them were pretty racy. And then she's a children's book author.
Interesting
So that's
concept.
exactly. So again, like I'm not talking about anything about meritocracy or like writing quality or anything like that, but it's just kind of like what is marketing at right now? Like what do we do with marketing? Like how, like what, like if you're not in a superhero costume or you're not like showing your titties, like there, it seems like there's no middle anymore, unless you have a cat. People like cats. Or like, you know, I don't know, some type of like political video or something. Like it seems like that's it. It's like controversy or like nudity or like what is the middle, like what is the breakground. That's why honestly when I jumped into the industry again, not even a year ago, it blew me away that to see it was even that big. Because like if you weren't into reading or writing, you wouldn't even think that people do that anymore. You would just think it's all Netflix and all TikTok, and you know what I mean?
Yes, it's so funny because I originally started on episode where I could choose what happens in the story because I like the option of choosing. And I was reading a book on episode called The Doberman, and they had some pictures of a guy with all these tattoos, which is Stephen James, and it was so funny because then when I saw him,
Who's
I was
that?
like, "Who is this?"
Okay.
And everyone was commenting, "He's the king of Wattpad." I'm like, "What the hell is Wattpad?" So then I jumped onto Wattpad and I found so many books to read, and I was just like, "Oh my goodness, it was insane."
And what is the Steven whatever, like some crazy like specimen of a man or something?
He is definitely fine, and he has a bunch of tattoos, but his whole body's tattooed, like neck, arms, chest, back,
Okay.
legs, the whole nine.
And he's a erotica author as well.
No, he's not an erotica author. He's just a muse everyone uses for their books.
Man, I know who that guy is.
Yeah, okay.
Literally
Then,
every person uses that guy.
Yeah, he's on my book too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But
Oh
he
no,
was
yeah.
but
He's the
it
guy.
was funny. He's the reason why I got into Wattpad because they had like a drawn picture of him. I was like, that's interesting because I saw the tattoo right here, the lotus flower. I was like, whoa. And then when I went to go find out like who he was, they said he's the king of Wattpad. And I was like, what the hell is Wattpad? And they were just like, oh, okay. So go over to Wattpad and it's a reading thing. And I was like, okay. And then I found this world of free books to read. And I was just like, oh, okay. And sure enough, I got into Wattpad from there.
All right, two things immediately popped into my mind, right?
Okay.
One, imagine this guy's head. And two, do you think he knows it? Because it goes both ways, right? There's either he has no idea of it, and like, you know, he's like getting interviewed in like Germany. Who's Jav? Do Jav? What pad? And then you like put the mic to him. He's like, "What are you talking about? What pad? What is like? What is that thing?" Or the opposite, right? He's like at the bar, a little drunk, trying to get some. He's like, he walks over to a girl. Hey, baby, you read Wattpad?
I'm the king.
I'm the king. Open that shit up. My cover's everywhere.
That would be funny.
Oh my God. How do you think comedy fits into romance? Because one thing that's been interesting the hell out of me lately is it seems that no one has well, I can't say no one, but it's not just simple romance or erotica now. It's like, oh, I like paranormal romance erotica, or I like XYZ. The last person I just talked to was horror romance. So, how do you feel of the subgenres within romance? And also, how do you think comedy ties into it? And do you think comedy has like a higher weight? Because I mean, rom-coms, I mean.
Yeah, I love rom-coms. As far as the other subgenres, I actually think it's pretty cool when people mix like, you know, the whole paranormal erotica. Because listen, whatever floats your boat,
No,
you know,
definitely, yeah.
it is what you like. For the whole comedy thing, I have some comedic points in my book, not very many, but there are some comedic things because I do like rom-coms as well. I think that's great. It's just that I guess for my book, I guess when I first started, I was a little bit more serious about it because I was like, oh, it's my first time writing. Let me not go so crazy. And now that like I said, I've been doing it for a year, I've like opened up a bit more about it. And I'm just like, okay, let's throw in some of this. Let's throw in some of that now. So I, I think putting comedy in romance is a great idea.
Hmm. Now, flipping that around, do you ever think that you'll ever start leaning on those subgenres more than the romance? So let's say that you start going into, you know, let's say your book after you finish the Desire saga or series is that you do a paranormal thing, or maybe you do something with a romance with a kaiju, and then he gets like, you know, his mind going through, but then he starts liking it. Ooh, right? I don't know. There's a thousand ways to go about it, and honestly, I know I sounded like I'm joking about it, but like I actually just kind of went there story wise. I'd watch that movie, like a romance of like falling in love with an alien. Can you imagine that? And
Yeah.
like it's almost like a false narrative because like the person believes that he's in love, but the alien just messing with him. Oh man, that'd be a story.
There goes your next book.
If I ever decide to go down that route. Uh, but like, do you ever think that subgenre that you will dive into will ever get flipped? Basically, do you ever think that you'll go into genres that are not romance or erotica? Do you ever think that you're writing a bit like writing love will ever expand?
So I was falling asleep one day and out of nowhere an idea came to me about a thriller mystery book that I would like to write, which is very far down the line. It's called, I named it Capricious. And I, it's not in the realm, it's not fully developed yet. It was just the idea of two females who are complete opposites who finally meet one day, and their worlds are basically torn apart because of the secrets that unfold when they finally meet.
Hmm. How do you think you'll? Well, again, I know it's like you said that it's like far down the line, but I don't know. A couple things like popped up. You think of your name, of the name of the title before you like that's like within the same thought process of like coming up with a plot.
So the name came um so the name has to do with the story.
Oh, you don't want to get into too many spoilers. I get you.
Yeah, I don't want to
I
get
heard
too
you.
much into it. So the
Yeah.
name has to do with the story. So that's why I named it that. It can change because again, I still have like 5 books to write before I get to that one. So
Uh,
we're gonna hold off on that for a little
uh,
while.
I hear you. I hear you. Hold
But
off.
yeah.
Are you in New York?
Yes.
Okay.
Terminology, how it gives things away.
Yeah, weird, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Um, man, do you think that like New York ever starts playing, or just like the do you think that you would be a different writer if you had lived or had grown up in, I don't know, Columbus, Ohio, as opposed to New York?
I would say so because I do believe our surroundings help develop our minds, and my mind probably would have developed differently if I was living there.
Because I think that New York, I mean, I think maybe every creative person I've ever talked to ever has this idea of New York as being kind of like the hub for that type of energy. Uh, and if you, I mean, if you look at it, just about every story is based around there. You have I Am Legend, New York. You know, every time there's a superhero, it's either New York or LA, but for the most part, it's New York. I mean, it's always like New York. That's like the hub of like this like artistic energy. Even when I think of like an author, I think of like an author in like a New York cafe, or it's like France, somebody on like a cafe with like a long cigarette, Cruella de Vil style, with a like a cartoon, a cartoon version of an author. I'll give you that, but still, that's what pops into my mind. So I always thought, or I always considered that would kind of breed a different type of energy,
I guess it's just what you feed your mind and how creative you allow yourself to get with it, I guess. I honestly couldn't state that if I lived somewhere else, I would be different. I would think I would be because my experiences would be different.
Oh, well, I mean, without a single doubt. The reason I kind of bring it up is I'm a huge fan of like comedy, just like, like stand-up comedians and whatnot. And I make a lot of parallels between the industries, between what we do and what they do. And one thing that they all that the comics always talk about was like when you're doing the road, when you're doing stand-up, which is like, I guess, our version of getting our first book out or whatever. They always talk about how that just being in different cities or being in different locations had a huge impact on not just what you would be expressed, but also how you would grow within that type of environment. And I guess it's different because we have the internet now, and like I guess we're you just talk to all romance people in the world instead of like being around New York and having to find the people that like your romance. But I don't know. Well, I guess you kind of already answered it, but do you think it'll ever have any change on your future progression as an author? I mean, just your ability for libraries, your ability for promotion is actually a lot more than a person from Columbus, Ohio, even with Instagram and everything.
True. Maybe. I guess so. I'm not. I don't know. I guess I'm not thinking that far ahead when it comes to that. I I'm really anxious to finish my first book is more what I'm really like focused on, because you see 76 parts, but Lori, she actually wrote 2 poems for my book that she was inspired by my characters. So that's also in my book.
Oh, wow.
Because it deals with BDSM, there are some other things that are in my book that are not like part of the book for reading, but just as informational pieces for people. So it says 76 chapters, but there's really only 67 chapters right now.
Okay.
Or 66, I should say. But there's these little extras, like I have my author's note, my muses that I use, and then all of the other stuff that I just mentioned. So it took up some of the chapters, but I still have about 20 chapters to finish. So I'm just like trying to get to the 85 mark and just call it a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, is there a specific reason for the 85 mark, or is that just how you have your story plotted?
So I've outlined my whole book, and that's where it seems to stop, apparently. I'm hoping it stays there and that I don't go and overdo it with words and have to add extra chapters.
Now, what do you mean that it seems to end there?
Well, there's one chapter that I'm currently working on. I'm a few chapters ahead from where I'm posting. And right now in the rough draft portion, it's already about 4,000 words, and I'm not done writing the chapter yet. So sometimes when it's already that much and I haven't even done my rewrite yet, I'll split the chapter in 2. So I'm hoping we end at 85. We might be a little over, but I am trying to finish it. I would like to finish it by the end of this month. That's my goal.
Wow. So walk me through what got you onto this path. What got you back in? Well, I can't even say back, but what got you into writing as a hobby's profession instead of something you had to do for work or whatever.
So when I started on Wattpad, I was reading a bunch of books, and a lot of them were from the male perspective, and it was always the male who couldn't love the girl because of the line of work he was in or because he was so broken from his past. And I wanted to do it from the female's perspective, where she's the broken one and she's not willing to love because of her broken past. And it's actually quite interesting when I started writing it and I started getting some comments. A lot of people have been upset with my female character and they want her to go ahead and just give in already. And I sometimes feel like that maybe it's a societal thing that people think that women are supposed to just have it together and bring everything together. But in real life, you know, not all women are like that. There are a lot of women out there who don't have it together and who do have horrible backgrounds that make it hard for them to move on in life. And I think it's interesting to see how hard society can be on a female that's like that compared to a male who's like that. It's like it's almost expected for a male to not want to have a relationship and to have sex without strings. And if a female does it, it's completely different.
That's, I don't know. I mean, I've heard that all throughout my life, but like just in actual locker room chat, I mean, like, it's not that highly viewed. I mean, I guess it depends. I don't know. Everything is so odd. You have a definite without a doubt point, just how everything goes and how, especially the point of view flip that you have. Whereas instead of like putting on the highlight on the man, you have it on the woman. But as far as the commenter, I think that people would do that just because they like the character. Like if you had written it as the male character, they would probably be commenting the same thing. It's like, oh, why can't he just move on? Why can't he just be better? Like when you put that emotional attachment to it, you know?
So that's the funny thing. When I read all these other books with the male lead, you would see comments as, oh, he's so scared. And they'll be like, oh, don't worry about it, Papi. You'll get past it. You know, she's going to love you. And like, it was like more encouraging. Whereas in this one, I've had people say, I'm sick of her doing this. Like, she needs to stop already and just let him in. And it's just like, wow, you know, like she had a troubled past, which is why it's so hard for her to go ahead and trust the male with her heart. So I think it's really interesting. I think it all depends on, I guess, what you've seen.
Man, that really is interesting. I kind of want to dive into that. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's like most readers, do you think that they're female or male?
According to the insights that I see, they're female.
Right. So maybe it's because when they're commenting under the guy's point of view, it's like fantastical. Whereas when they're commenting on the female's point of view, it's like they see themselves and it's like, girl, get over your shit. Come on. You got a good shit in front of you. Come on, what's up? What are you doing? It's like, it's like them talking to their friend.
I mean, it could be that. Like, so I feel like in society, we have a double standard when it comes to stuff like that. Like, you know, it's like I said before, it's okay for the male to be broken and to not be willing to get his heart broken. But, you know, as society, the woman is like the strongest part of the family. And she's always supposed to have her head on straight. And she's the one who's supposed to like have all her stuff together and know how to do things, you know how to get past stuff. When in actuality, I actually know personally plenty of people or females, I should say, who are not like that.
Yeah.
Who don't have their life together, who are trying to get their life together, who have had such a horrible past that it's hard for them.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay for that to be that way. Just because you're a female doesn't mean that you have to have your life together and that you have to open up your heart just because someone is willing to love you. You can take your time. You can make sure that it's right. And you can, do it at your own pace.
I really do think that goes both ways, though, honestly.
Oh, it definitely does. But I think people are way more accepting of it when it comes from a male than a female. I think it's way more acceptable for a man to not want to have his feelings hurt and for him to hold back.
If you look like Bradley Cooper, but like if you're anybody else, you're just that asshole that's like, has emotional problems.
Well, I'm going according to what I've seen in books and how I've seen people react in comments and how people have commented on my book because of my female lead reacting the same way male leads do.
Now that is really interesting. And honestly, I think that's even more interesting because that's perception versus reality,
Yes.
My God. I don't know. Like I know it's like weird to like get so like deep into psychology, but like there is nothing more interesting to me than like that whole thing, like the tick of like why things happen and things like that. I think it's like the main driving force between all writing. You know, it's like the emotional through line, like why your character, not only what your character is doing, but why are they doing it, and how is it going to affect the future actions that they take, and is it going to affect, like, you know, how are they going to be affected by past decisions that they've made, you know? So what got you to starting to writing your saga, the Desire saga? What got you onto that journey and that idea?
So
Specifically BD, BRG,
BDSM.
BLG,
BDSM.
Black Lives Matter, BLM, what is it?
BDSM.
BDSM. BB8, I got you.
I like the story. I like erotic stories, and I like the whole realm of BDSM, and I liked the whole taboo part of it, because even though, like, you know, yes, because there are plenty of people out there who still will hear like BDSM and spanking and being tied up or suspended, and they're just like, what? Or being submissive. Oh goodness. There are some people who have some very profound opinions on that. And I was just like, wow, like just in the sense of like BDSM, oh, that's horrible. I would never. Being submissive, I could never submit to a man, or I could never submit to a woman. Submission, no way. And it's just
that's
like,
what they comment, and then you go into their living room and they're into some freaky shit. What are you talking about? That's just them projecting.
And I'm just
get out of here. No one comments
I'm like,
that.
what? Like, I'm like, are we not in the 21st century? Is this not okay by now, of being able to explore your sexual fantasies and not having to be so judged for it? But apparently it still happens. Exactly. It still happens. And that's one of the reasons why I did it, because I noticed in conversations, it was just like, what? Like that? No, I would never. And like, really? Like you wouldn't even try it just to see what it's like?
Wait, in conversation? So you're at a cafe talking about, so anyway, I'm in the sex swing. He has the ultimate drill max for 38.
It's crazy. I forgot, it was a large group of people when we just like somehow it segued into the whole BDSM, and someone was like, oh, they would never, and some people jumped in, and some people were like, how could you not? It was really interesting.
You, and that person right there, she likes it, or he likes it. I'm telling you. That's projection right there.
That in today's day and age, it's still something that's like, so, oh no. And like even for certain professions, like if you're a cop, and yeah, I saw that too. What? If you're a cop and you decide that, you know, you're into BDSM, it's something you would have to hide, because the industry of policing frowns upon that. Why? Like, why can't I, like, why what was it, the cop that modeled for Playboy magazine and got, well, I think she got fired for using her uniform, so I think that's what the reason why that was.
What's up? I'm gonna have to look that up for scientific purposes.
But like it's just stuff like that, like, you know, if you have a certain position, you can't do certain things. So it just like, it's the taboo part like that kind of like gets me, and I guess that's why I wanted to write about it.
God, that is so interesting. Like there's just so much to like break down from that, like why a person would like say that, and just like, I mean, we're talking about 50 Shades of Grey, which deals pretty heavily on that whole thing, and it sold more copies than the Bible. So like, bullshit.
Agreed. I agree with that.
But then, my God, the only thing that I don't get about it is it just to be honest, it just seems like there's a lot of auxiliary things. I'm all for trying a whole bunch of different things, but like when we got to go to a store to facilitate those needs, I got to call a consultant. I was like, oh, what size? Oh, I don't know. Is there a fitting room? Again, I'm talking as a complete novice, and I bring it up only like for a comedic effect, but I don't know. I guess maybe I joke about it because it makes me, because I like, I don't know. I'm just like, that's not my world, you know?
Okay, so another thing I did with my book as well is it's not a how-to. It's not a how to get into the world of BDSM, but there are some things that are available to people that people would have never known. Like there is a website to see what your kinks are. It's like a BDSM test.
Like a wine testing website?
Yes, but not for wine, for BDSM. Like,
Uh-huh.
do you like being suspended? Do you like being tied down? Do you
3
like,
or 4 fingers.
no, not like that. Or like, do you like, being dominated? Do you like to tell people what to do? Like it asks you a series of questions and it tells you, you know, according to your answers, the certain things that you might like. And it helps to facilitate conversation with your partner. Like, hey, I did this and after answering these questions, it says that I may be what they call a rope bunny. And a rope bunny is a female who likes to be tied down. So maybe then he can start learning how to do certain knots to tie, her legs together or her arms together, whatever the case may be, or to create a harness to suspend her so that she's immobile, things of that nature. And then like, I had a comment the other day that there was candle wax play in one of my scenes. And the male lead was asking the female lead if she knows what he was putting on her because she was blindfolded, and she said, it's candle wax. And he told her it is a candle, but it's not a regular candle. It's a low temperature candle, because if you use a regular candle, you'll burn yourself. So it's just like you can work your way up to that. But if you're starting out, you should try a low temperature candle type of thing. So my book is kind of informative so that if, I guess, people do decide to play, they play safe.
That's pretty fair. And if I can be honest, I had like two minds going. I mean, because like immediately, I just have all the comedic like things that playing in my mind. Like the moment you said that whole thing about the rope bunny, I imagine the guy's point of view of that, where like he's going to the bar after, he goes like, dude, so my girl told me I'm a rope bunny. Now I gotta learn fucking rope ties. The fuck about a Boy Scout? The fuck? I gotta learn how to do fucking a knot. I know how to do this shit. But if I can be on the same route, that isn't really healthy for a relationship, honestly. Like being completely honest, I really think that's. I mean, I think that type of comfortability is the main thing that probably leads to a relationship kind of going sour, unless like you're just not, like chemistry wise good for one another. But as far as that goes, I think that's probably the healthiest thing you can do a relationship, and probably putting out a website and getting an answer is probably even a better conversation, because instead of being like, hey honey, I like doing all this weird shit, you can just kind of be like, oh hey, I took a test. I didn't say it. Google said it. Fuck out.
And the thing is, especially for new people, they won't know what they're into. Like they won't know what kind of questions.
Yeah.
So it's like it kind of like guides you, like, oh hey, maybe we should try this. It says that I might be into this. Let's try it, see if I am. If I'm not, we never have to do it again. Let's see what you're into and what you like, and then we can see what matches. Because there's also a certain part of it that says whether or not you're submissive or whether or not you're dominant. If you're both dominant, it's not going to work, because someone has to be submissive for the dominant. Again, you laugh, but it's true.
No. The thing, again, you have to understand. It's like, I get the validity, like philosophically what you're saying, but I'm just thinking about the situation. Two dominants in the room. It's like, nah, you get down. No, you get down. And just like they're doing that for like half an hour.
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
Yeah. Oh man, that is. Then again, I don't know. Because I saw there was I've only read one passage of erotica in my entire life. It was those situations when you're in the bathroom, you need a book, just whatever's around.
Yes.
There was and I can't remember whose book it was. I think it was like either I was in my sister's house or somebody, and I grabbed something, and it was, I didn't even flip the beginning. I've just flipped to a random chat, like a middle. I wanted to study like different type of like writing, and this woman's writing was phenomenal. But the scene that she was talking about was that like it was a powerful woman. Like she was like a CEO, bad bitch, she didn't take shit from anybody. And then the guy that she was into was basically the guy version of them. And like for whatever reason, magic or whatever, I landed on that sex scene, and it was just them like ultra aggressiveness. You know what I mean? Like Ultra Instinct, they're like kaiju. I don't even know what. Like just it was odd. Again, and I guess odd for me because man, again, it's such a. I guess it's like the George R. Martin quote where it's like, how why is it that that's uncomfortable? But then like if I saw a scene where like somebody getting like a screwdriver like through the skull, you know, and like all this like crazy graphic things, that's fine. But then the other, you never heard of that like that quote that like somebody you've seen Game of Thrones, right?
Yes.
So like somebody was commenting, it's like, oh, how can you, make your story so like sexually graphic? And he was like, all right, how are you okay with like the head choppings and everything, but
Yes.
you're not okay with, love making?
Yes. One of my hashtags that I put for Wattpad was strong language, because I use the words that people would use in situations like that. Instead of making it soft and fluffy, I just speak to how people would speak.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not for everyone, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be for everyone. But, like, if you can take the blood, the murder, the guts, you can take the hardcore sex, so to speak.
And that's even weirder. I mean, erotica. So what? Somebody's like okay with like all the different verbatures you're gonna use for like grabbing ass or like biting lips or anything like that, but they're gonna get mad at you for using the F word one too many times when somebody's like exclaiming something. Man, people are so weird.
I actually find it really funny that someone had commented on a friend's book of mine asking them not to use the word, to use God's name in vain, because they said like Jesus effing Christ in a line. But I'm like, but you're reading an erotica book. Like, really?
When she climaxed?
I'm just
oh
like,
God, oh God, oh God, don't take God's name in vain. Okay.
But I'm like, you're asking for a writer not to write how they write, but yet you're reading an erotica book. How does that make sense? Like, if you feel that strongly about that, then maybe you shouldn't be reading that book. Just, my opinion.
Do you think that like level of commentary and like do you think that's new? Or do you think people have always been like that?
I think people have always been like that.
Right? And we just have the ability to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I think back, I mean, like, do you remember like the Blockbuster days and whatnot?
Yes.
You found out a movie was bad by like your friends, or like you found out yourself.
Yeah, I'm more of the I'll find out myself, because a lot of the time when people are like, oh, that movie was so bad, I'll watch it like, that was a great movie. Like, what do you mean it was bad? So I don't know.
Do you have any examples of that? Like times that like that you almost were slowed down, I guess, by watching like a movie and then you watch it and you were like, oh, this is actually a great movie. How did anybody ever think that?
So the person who was upset with the whole Godzilla thing, they told me it was a bad movie. And then when I watched it, I was like, are you insane? Like what were you on when you saw this? Because no, you had to not be paying attention, because I think the Godzilla versus King Kong, that was a great movie.
You know what's really weird? I feel like when I go to the movie theaters and I watch a movie in like the cinema, I'm like a mega critic for whatever reason. But then if I watch that same movie like a couple months later on like Netflix, I think it's phenomenal. I remember when I watched, Age of Ultron in the movie theaters. I thought the movie was like trash when I saw it. And I remember I was just like talking to my friends. I was like, oh, I can't believe they did this and that. And like just making fun of it, just like trash talking it. And then I watched it like a couple months later, and I literally couldn't remember what I was complaining about. To this day, I can't remember what I was complaining about. Like, I wonder what it was that I thought that was so off about it. That's a great movie. I mean, it's not like Criterion, it's not like Citizen Kane, but I mean, it's a great movie, you know?
And you know what? I need to retract something I said before. It wasn't the skull of a kaiju. It was the skull of the first. Oh, goodness. Was it Mecha Godzilla? It was the first one, the first Godzilla. I forgot what's the name? Ghidorah. It was the skull of Ghidorah that the person was in. They are kaijus? Okay, so they are kaijus. My husband's helping me out now. I tend to mix this stuff up.
and they bring all that together
in King Kong versus Godzilla. Yes.
Yo, that is intense, huh?
You might have to see it now. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the promotion deal has worked. You need to make sure you get a tip from a raise from whatever company hired you. Um, so bringing it back to the romance tip.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think are your greatest inspirations like other works? And it's not limited in just novelizations. It can be, you know, other Wattpad writers, Netflix, TV shows, movies. What do you think are great examples of romance?
Great
Or
examples
erotica, you know, whatever.
Romance or so I would have to give a shout out to Bradley's Toothpick, because reading her books was when I finally decided that I wanted to write on my own. And I loved her whole Mafia series. Bradley's Toothpick, that's her name on Instagram. Jessica Lovelace is her name. And her romance between Riley and Damien is phenomenal. She also put me on to someone called Queen of Desires. And her book is, or her series is the London Crime King series. And the romance is between Liam and Alexa. That's also like some great romance. I do like rom-coms as well. So like something like 50 First Dates, or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I do like Sweet Home Alabama, stuff like that. So I'm mentioning some old school stuff here.
No, I've seen all those movies.
Even Moulin Rouge with Nicole Kidman.
I have not seen that one actually.
It's pretty long, but I love that movie to death.
Titanic long or?
No, it's a good 2 hours, and it's kind of funny because when I watch it, I'll fast forward like the first like 15 minutes, half an hour to get to the part where I want to start watching. Because the first one was like, whatever, let's get to the part I want to watch. But I think my ultimate movie for like romance and sappiness would be The Princess Bride.
Oh, I was thinking Princess Diaries. Princess Bride. Which one is that one?
Oh goodness, this is a really old movie. It's about it's about a farm girl named Buttercup who lived on a farm, and she had a farm boy named Wesley who the only words he ever spoke to her was "as you wish." He goes off on a journey on a ship, and they get taken over by the Dread Pirate Roberts, and she gets word that he dies, and she's like, "I'll never love again." Years later, he comes back as the Dread Pirate Roberts, and it was a movie I used to watch when I was sick as a kid, and there's romance, there's magic, giants. Andre the Giant is in there. Wizards, like there's just so much different stuff. It's a really great like all around movie.
Wow. I think my favorite, well, I can't even say favorite because to say favorite, I think you would have to be like a huge fan of the genre, but I do like those seasonal rom-coms, like well, I can't say I've watched it a couple times. It was like that New Year's one, you know what I'm talking about? That has like all the different like interconnecting people's lives.
Okay, I know. Yeah,
like I think Love Actually was one of them, but then there was another one that was like about like based around New Year's. Know what I mean? That whole like season.
I do, and I can't like I feel like I saw it, but I can't remember the name of it. I'm so bad at this.
Well, like the reason like I like that story is because it shows like a whole bunch of different relationships, right? Like they'll have like the marriage that's like, you know, they've been married for like 30-40 years and they need to rekindle their love. You have like the 20, you know, early 20s, mid 30s type of love that like they maybe just got through a bad relationship and they're looking for a new love. And then you have like the little 8-year-old that has like a crush on the other 8-year-old and he wants to give her a little love letter, and they just tie all of it together.
Yeah, and then somehow they're all somehow in the same place. They all know each other. They all end up like all together.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh, he's my barber. And then she goes to the deli that I went to. And then we got into a car accident outside and we exchanged information.
You know what? I forgot. There is another movie that most people don't see it as a romance, but when you think about it, it is.
Lilo and Stitch.
No, The Crow.
Oh no, you know what? I haven't even seen that movie. I've got like 15 minutes into it. but then there was like too much smoke and fog for me.
Well, The Crow is basically a man that comes back to avenge the death of him and his fiance.
Yeah. Well, like I know that that's a really highly regarded movie, though. Honestly.
Yeah, it's a great movie, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, and it's funny because people don't see it as romance because there's so much action. I'm like, but this is romance. He's coming back to avenge the death of his fiance and himself. Like, you don't do that if you don't love somebody.
Man, how many other movies could be labeled like that? Gladiator is basically a love movie, then, a romance. It's all about him, like, right? It's like him trying to like avenge like the love of his wife and daughter after he got like put into the thing. Man, you know what I liked a lot when I was a kid? Dangerous Liaisons. Oh, but it's also called Cruel Intentions. You ever heard of that movie?
I've heard of Cruel Intentions. I have not seen Dangerous Liaisons. I've heard of it though.
Well, it's like that was like the OG, and then Cruel Intentions is like the you know early 20s remake of it.
Okay.
That movie, I mean, that is right up there. Like if you like romance and erotic and all that, that is the movie. That movie is, oh my, I was about to like drop like the biggest thing of it, which is like I remember when I first like saw it in a movie, I was like, oh my god, they're doing this in movies, they make stories like that. Oh my god, it was the craziest thing. Because I remember I watched it when I was like 14. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they're doing this. But no, that movie's intense. They actually made fun of it in that movie. It's a comedy, Not Another Teen Movie. You ever seen that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, they the whole relationship between Captain America and his sister in that movie is basically the plot of Dangerous Liaison. That's like a real plot.
Okay.
Obviously,
Interesting.
obviously in that movie they went OD with it. I think like they have like a scene that's like it's like, oh shit, on my chest, and the guy's like, what? That movie's OD. Can you imagine like 15 years after that, he's like Captain America and like signing
Yeah.
little kids are running up to him. He's like signing his name on his forehead. Ah, there you go, Bucky. Playing with his hair, whatever. um, my God, what do you think is the future for the not only your writing and your genre writing, but like the genre itself? Have you seen a shift from when you started reading erotica romance till now? And do you think that shift will continue on in the future?
Okay, so to be honest, since I've started writing, I've kind of shifted away from reading just because I don't want someone to accuse me of stealing their work and putting it in my book.
God, I hear you.
So it's hard to say, like the woman I mentioned before, Jessica Lovelace, Bradley's Toothpick, she's done rewrites of her book and I haven't even read it yet because I'm like, all right, I'm going to focus writing on mine. And then once I finish my first book, I'm going to take some time off because now that I've written my first book, I don't want every book to be like 100 chapters long. So I'm writing out the details of my future books now. So for instance, the other day, even though I haven't finished my first book, I already outlined all of book 2. So
wow.
I'm already ahead of the game when it comes to book 2, but I want to be able to write out the chapters ahead of time. I'm also looking to get beta readers so that they can help and assist me with grammatical errors or any plot holes, because there's a few little plot holes that I found in my first book. And I'm just like, oh, how did I do this? I'm like, how could I forget? So I know that there are things that I have to fix. But like, it's just this whole big thing. So I can't say that I've seen anything shift because of the fact that I've kind of taken a step back from reading. Although I did read Queen of Desires books. Her fandom was helping her in a competition where her book was entered. And so I read the books because her first book was so good. I was like, all right, I got to read the rest of them and see what they're about. And it's actually funny because there's a part of her book that is kind of the same as in my book. And I reached out to her and I was like, listen, I had not realized that this was the same in your book. And as soon as I read it, I was like, oh no, I had to reach out to you. And I'm not trying to take your idea, because the idea is kind of the same, but I have a slight twist to it. And she was very gracious, and she was like, we're all writing the same stuff, just with different characters and different words. She's like, don't worry about it. She was very down to earth and very like, she just seems like a great person. And I was just like, wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I felt a lot better about my scene that seems like hers.
Man, like it's especially with writing, I think that's something that it's almost natural to have a trepidation over, like thinking that an idea that you have. I mean, I feel I get the opposite often, where I'll come up, for example, like the idea that we just talked about before with like the whole romance based on a kaiju or whatever.
Yeah.
So in a year and a half, that's gonna be a Netflix show, and then I'm gonna hit you up talking about, you see, they got us. Netflix has been spying on us for a year and a half. This is the evidence. I got it. I know it. That is just, I can't say like, and the thing about it too is like, I like it's so funny how ego driven that is, because when you look into the idea, it is all, it's like 3% of what you said. You know what I mean? You actually look up what the summary is, and you look like you look into it, and you're like, oh yeah, no, they did a lot more work than I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you're saying, it's like, oh, I had a story for a little kid being a magician too. J.K. Rowling stole my shit. It's like, no, but she made a world, like, you know, she made
Yeah,
a whole thing.
yeah, she made a whole world on it, okay?
Yeah, you like have this one idea. I don't know. It's such a, especially the one that's the weirder thing is the true and honest aspect of it, that it's not who does it first, but who does it best.
Yeah.
Like, you really think that Edison was the first person to have the idea of a light bulb? Like, imagine. Like, it's not even that hard of an idea. Like, you look at the sun and you're like, oh, dude, imagine if we just had that like inside.
Mm-hmm.
He was just the first person to really be able to, you know, put money behind it and like, oh, we're gonna do this one. But it's all just, it's not just like the idea, but it's like, I guess, like the person as well, which is why writing is so interesting, because everyone has their own voice and everything. Like, if we were both to go and run that idea with a kaiju romance, we would write completely different stories. I mean, completely different stories.
Yeah.
Like, I think we would, I don't think anybody would even compare it. Like, I don't think there would even be that many comments like saying it's like, oh, this is like the what A.R. wrote. Or like people would say, it's like, oh, this is like what Marie wrote. I don't even think people would be able to kind of put it together, because it's just, there's so much difference in people's writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there is.
Uh, Now, what do you think is something that you have learned the most in this whole process? And what is something that you want to kind of work on as you sharpen your pencil, I guess? You get better with your craft.
I guess it's the show, don't tell thing, where you write to show the reader what you're saying instead of telling them what you're saying.
In what sense?
Um, I guess it's in the details of what you write. It's not just, he walked to the bedroom from across the room. It's, he sauntered towards me as I watched his foot step one in front of the other, watching his figure get bigger as he stood before me. It's like, you're giving so much more detail about how he was walking, how his figure was smaller and then got bigger when he got in front of her, than just saying, hey, he walked over to me. So it's about showing, not telling.
I call that cinematography. Like, when like it's like when you write from the point of view of a camera in a movie.
Yeah.
When like the camera like goes in, they have like all this cinematography things, and like it'll zoom out and it'll show like a mirror aspect between like the person walking and on like a beach, and like the water reflecting off them and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think why like movies are such an important inspiration for what writing is and everything, because like just how you visualize everything is kind of how a screenplay works out. And in that sense, what are your kind of great examples of romance in a movie? Like we kind of talked about it with like relationships and with the Wattpad, but what do you think are your shining examples of romance in movies? Like I'll tell you right now, one of my favorite movies for romance, oddly enough, is Scott Pilgrim versus the World. just because it's kind of like the antics of a kid, of like a high schooler, kind of picking up, like piecing together what love is to him.
Mm-hmm.
And just like,
Um, so I guess for romance, it's really odd, but I guess something like The Notebook, 5 Feet Apart. So I'm not sure if you've ever seen The Notebook, but basically,
that's Nicholas Sparks though, right?
I believe so, yes. Basically, I guess the whole point of it was the couple grew old together, and she ended up getting Alzheimer's, and the man would read
Spoiler
her.
alert.
Yes, seriously, sorry, spoiler alert. And he basically reads her journal to her, or his journal to her, the whole time about like their whole experience and everything that happened, and he basically just stays with her the whole time. And even though she's not right in her mind, he like has lunch with her, he reads to her, and she's so enthralled by the story and she has no idea that it's hers. Or even 50 First Dates, spoiler alert,
That's a good one.
where she wakes up every morning not remembering the night before, and he has a tape for her to record, to tell her, you know, what her life has been for the past 5 years. And listen, we fell in love, we got married, we had kids, we had a child, and you know, now we live on this boat and we're traveling to Alaska and whatnot. You know, and it's like, you know, the little things like that that show that the person actually cares about you, for me, are my ideas of romance. It's just like, wow, like you actually take the time out to make a video and add new parts to it every time just to help me remember that I love you. I'm like, I think that's amazing.
Wow, that is pretty amazing. Did you just recently watch that movie? Because you just like spilled out the last 15 minutes like perfectly.
No, I have not seen it recently.
My God. Like, I actually did, and you just that's exactly what happened the last like 5 minutes. I mean, like
Yeah.
word for word.
Maybe it could be, who knows? Maybe that's how much of an impression it left on me.
No, because that is the last 15 minutes. And the thing is that I honestly didn't even seeing it recently, I didn't, I guess, understand the true math behind it. Like he actually really does have to go back and edit it. I always thought of how weird it is that like, well, not weird, but like how awesome that in the beginning of the movie he is such. I mean, like to call it like a player doesn't make sense because it's like obviously negative. I mean, like he has like, the whole scene of the like he has to pretend to be a spy and he just like hops on the guy's like thing, and then it's just as innocuous as just like seeing a girl playing with like pancakes or like you know building a house with waffles, and that
Yes,
just snaps him out of it. He goes like, oh yeah, I'll throw all the little bullshit that I was doing before
out the window.
out the window, and I'll make these little, you know, and especially with how video editing is. I mean, a 15-minute video takes like 5 hours, so this man's doing, you know, my God, this dude's like doing professional work every week just to make sure that his wife's up to date.
Mm-hmm.
That is something.
That's dedication. To me, that's love. I'm like, who would do that for someone else? It takes me maybe a half an hour to make a 30-second video, trying to find the right pictures, trying to put them together, trying to time it right, getting effects so that it's just not a boring thing of just whatever, making sure that I have gifts so that it is moving. Like, it's just so much stuff.
My God, I guess it all ties together with promotion, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, what are we gonna do? Is it, do we go like the sexier route, but then you know TikTok is gonna try to get hammered down on us, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
then there's just like the yeah, honestly, what is left for us as far as like authors? Just like our work, right? Just meritocracy. That's
Yeah.
it. Um, Now we're hitting just about the end of this whole like little adventure of the podcast, right? So I usually like to end on kind of your final notes. Like, what is the last things you want to say? Anything do you want to say to the people? What your future aspirations are? Anything that you want to promote?
Of course, I want to promote my book, Dreadful Desire, Wattpad, Inkitt, and Booknet. It's all there. Um, I do believe, you know, it is an erotica, and I know there's plenty of them out there, but I do believe I do give it a different spin because, again, like I said, it is informative. It is rather long, so sorry about that, but I'm reining in. I'm reining in everything. I would like to give a shout out to Lori for putting me on to you in this podcast. I would like to give a shout out to Sandra Robinson. You also had her on there recently. Yeah, I'd like to give her a shout out. I love her book, Lust and Deceit. Lori's book, Lori Writes Stories. What is it? Class of '95. Yeah. Dreaming of Wilder, A Dormant Howl. All great books. You got to go check them out. Jessica Lovelace, the whole Mafia series. Queen of Desires, her whole London Crime King series. I like to just give them some shout outs because those are some really great works that I've read.
Yeah, definitely shout out to all them. You know, Lori, Sam's a great one. Victoria. I haven't had. I might have to reach out to Jennifer. It sounds like a real
Jessica.
Cool. Did I say what did I say?
You said Jennifer. Jessica.
Oh, my bad. I have another another name in my head altogether. Yeah, Loveless. I was really thinking Loveless. That's awesome.
Yeah, Jessica Lovelace.
Is that is she famous, or is there another person named something Loveless that starts with a J? I feel I've heard that name before.
I don't know. Her name is Jessica Lovelace. You can also find her under Bradley's Toothpick on Instagram. Yes, Bradley's Toothpick _ Bradley's _ Toothpick.
I wonder what the name behind that. I wonder if she had an ex named Bradley and she was like, I'm gonna become famous.
Actually,
and I'm gonna make fun of your tiny dick.
Actually, it is a she loves the character from the London Crime King series named Bradley, and he always has a toothpick in his mouth. So she's Bradley's Toothpick.
Okay. That's why she's loveless. Okay, makes sense. It all ties together. Yes. So again, did you also drop your own Instagram links and everything again for the people?
Earlier on, yes. For Instagram, it is Marie_Terry_1. On Facebook, it's just Marie space Terry. And on TikTok, it's Marie Terry 6, all together, no spaces.
Awesome. And again, I just showed the video of her Wattpad, of her Inkitt. Make sure to look into it. Mary _Terry, MARIE_TERRY. Make sure to go through it. The Desire Saga. You already heard it here. 76 chapters. Well, I guess more like 66, right?
Yes.
20 more on the way, and another book. I mean, you have content to read forever. I mean, this is what you want. When you hop on Netflix, you're always complaining there's not enough. You know what else do you want? This is what you want to read. Romance. There is no better investment than Mary, Terry, and the entire squad, honestly, that you gave a shout out to. So big shout out to them. And, shout outs to all the indie publishers, indie authors out there. It's been a phenomenal ride. And just, there is nothing better than this industry, honestly and truly. Just meeting awesome people like Mary. Again, thank you for coming on to the podcast and dealing with my ramblings and all the weird conversations we had and talk about kaijus and all the different things.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So this is the end of the podcast. AR's Tales, aka the ART podcast. I am Amir Bal. This was Mary. We will check back on you next week, and make sure to look at Mary's Wattpad and Inkitt. Again, Mary _Terry. It'll be worth it. Peace out.